It's starting. And my battery is low. Hey
Uh-oh.
guys, it's Chris, financial progressive, who needs to plug her computer in because I forgot. This is Deanna I am with because Derrick um was double booked. Uh, yeah, so I don't know what happened there. It was just a miscommunication, and it serves me right because I totally miscommunicated last time we were scheduled, but we are going to reschedule. So Derek will be back on. But for now, I have the second best thing, which is Deanna Meyer back to continue our conversation that we were last time on her interview. We were talking about the black-footed ferret and the prairie dogs and all that, and then we got into there was a little bit of a thing where we're starting to talk about um, vaccinations and things like that, where humans are cheating the natural selection process. And I really wanted to get deeper into that conversation. So, Deanna, go ahead and say hi.
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 Thank you. Um, yeah.
So, very interesting discussion to have about that. I need to pop out my chat so I can read what people are saying. Do you have the ability to see the chat?
I don't. I'm not seeing it now.
Okay. The best thing to do is open another window in YouTube, put take off the sound, X out the sound, and then just you can go into the chat section and pop out the chat if you want to see the chat. If you don't, that's fine. I'll just read it.
Okay.
Either way, let's see. So far, Chris Foster's here. Clear from across the pond. Is this? Oh, Lisa Hauserman is here. Yay! I love Lisa. Have you ever watched Lisa Alderman? She does it's not political, it's not nothing. You just go and she does these great little game show things. She's fantastic.
Great.
Oh, Trev B5 is here. Okay, so we're gonna say hi to people for a second as they pop up.
You
Um,
have to read it to me. If I go back and forth, I'm going to get confused.
I that's why I pop it out because then you can have it right there and see it while you're on. I don't know.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to get it.
I'll
Let's
see.
see. Light applause ceremony. I can't stay long, but I certainly wanted to partake as long as possible. Lisa, I love you. I'm so happy you're here. She is such a sweetheart. Light applause ceremony. I can't stay long, but I certainly wanted to partake as long as possible.
Oh, I see it now.
Lisa, I love you. This is it. I do that all the time. Light applause ceremony. I can't stay long, but I certainly wanted to partake as long as possible.
Oh, I see it now.
Lisa, I love you.
I had to turn it off because I think it was echoing and messing up our feed. I hope.
Oh yeah, you just have to turn off the sound, but you can pop out the chat. It takes a second. It's okay.
Okay.
So
you can just read the chats to me, so I won't mess it up anymore.
that's okay. Yeah, it does take a second. I think I got a lot of people trained on it.
Okay.
I live for you. Oh my gosh, I'm blushing. Well, Lisa, you always make me blush when you talk about me on your channel, so we're even. I don't know if you're gonna like this discussion though. Yeah, there was some sound issue. It's okay. We're trying to figure this out. But anyway, so let's continue where we left off with the black-footed ferrets and the prairie dogs. First of all, let's just do a little recap of what happened with that, and how they were like pretending they were trying to save the black-footed ferret, and in fact, it was like they didn't have enough prairie dogs for the black-footed ferret and all that to survive on. So maybe they were trying to get the black-footed ferret to take out all the prairie dogs instead. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think that it's just that people are too myopic and simplistic. So it goes back to just everything that's happening right now. And that when we talk about saving the black-footed ferret or wolves or whatever you want to say, from our Western perspective or from the wildlife perspective, that the only thing that matters is that particular species. So with the black-footed ferret, they can't live without prairie dogs, and
Hmm.
need very large colonies in order to survive. And the prairie dog, sustains 180 other species and more. I mean, and does so many other things that we're not capable of seeing. So, I mean, the bottom line on that whole thing is pretty indicative of the whole culture in the sense that, the myopic view that ferrets need to be saved without taking into account that if you want to save ferrets, you have to save prairie dogs and stop annihilating them everywhere and destroying their their biodiversity and their their homes in the grasslands. It's all connected. And that's the biggest thing about, I mean, I'm sure anytime a species gets listed on the Endangered Species Act, federal law requires them to do everything that they can. Well, federal law supposedly requires them to do everything they can to save them. Whether or not that really happens is a totally entirely different thing. And by
Yeah, they're not thinking of like the web of life type of thing. They're just so microscopic in their view when
Mhm.
they're trying to save a species. It's like, okay, well, we'll just save this one species and forget about everything it feeds on and everything else. Uh,
Right. And if you want to preserve, any species, you have to take into account probably what our mind isn't able to take it. You have to take into account their whole habitat and who they live with. So,
right,
I mean, black-footed ferrets prairie dogs can live without black-footed ferrets, but black-footed ferrets cannot live without prairie dogs. And same with
right,
burrowing owls. Prairie dogs can live without burrowing owls, but burrowing owls need prairie dogs to live. So,
right.
and
That
then,
is their home, right? Because
yes,
they live in their home.
right. And I mean, the same thing for anything. We need insects, and now we're losing all of our insects, and that's going to end badly for us. Yeah, I mean, just anything that we take out of the equation is that was native, and that had been here for tens and thousands and millions of years. We're doing a lot of damage to ourselves and to the entire, planet by haphazardly pretending we know what we're doing or pretending that we can eliminate anybody and not have severe consequences for not
Right.
only the planet but for ourselves as well. I mean, and of course, this culture is all about me, 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 me. It's extraordinarily narcissistic, but
Isn't that sad?
but
It's not necessarily
our, yeah, yeah,
just
it is. And it's the illness. It's they're very sick. I mean, and if we being narcissistic, if you want, which I think just needs to go. I mean, I think narcissism is terrible. But even in that way, it's like if you're gonna go ahead and be so narcissistic, then maybe you should care about, yourself enough to protect those who have formed you. You
yeah, those that you depend on. I mean, nature. I mean, nature is should be our god. Nature is what developed us. What after thousands and thousands of years of adaptation, that's where we came from. Yet we have no respect for it. We have none.
right,
We think we can overcome nature, but I really think that, well, we're shooting ourselves in the foot, and we're shooting every other species in the foot, on our way. Cheating, and that's what I really wanted to get into is cheating the whole natural selection process with all of our um, medical advances like vaccinations and things like that. Which, you know what? Of course, everyone here probably has someone they love that's been saved by medical advances. I've been saved by medical advances. I should have died in childbirth. I should never have lived to have three children, um, because my bones aren't built to have children. I should have died the first time. So, what does that do in the long run as far as natural selection and keeping species in a proper population to where they don't overcome all the other species?
yeah, yeah. I mean, just everything we've done has been, off balance. I mean, we're an over. If you want to take it all down, I mean, the root of the problem, of course, is agriculture. I
Uh,
mean, probably the root of the problem probably started with our dominate or our ability to use fire. Even, I mean, if you want to go back that far, but the agriculture and being able to to increase our ability to steal from other species to benefit the numbers. Like, I don't think civilization or agriculture has benefited individual human beings in any way. And I don't think, if you look at the history, it looks as if civilization is definitely a process of forcing others to join. Nobody was trying to, become civilized that had their own life where they were sustained from the land and their survival and in their traditional communities. Just didn't happen. Despite the myths that people say, I mean, you didn't see a bunch of, the indigenous people on this country or others, when you look at the history, jumping, and begging the Europeans or whoever it was that was colonized, the Romans, whoever, to join in and their filthy, cities and to have to depend upon grains. But, when we just start depending upon grains, we monoculture everything. And so we forget the importance. But it'll always, nature will always come back and have to put us in line. That's a law of the earth. That's a law of life.
Life wants to live. I love how Derrick puts that. Life wants to live. So, and that's probably the only hope I have, is that life wants to live. But I think, humans have been greatly detrimental to the natural world, and it's getting worse and worse. Just where I live right now, like what they're doing to the wetlands, and where they want to frack right, like it's probably like 15 miles away tops from where I'm at. They want to start fracking near the Great Salt Lake, a big, huge body of water. It's not like they're not poisoning almost every single body of water we have already. They want to poison the Great Salt Lake. So we're so close. It's like, what do you do? And how do you combat humans trying to conquer everything? And I don't know. I mean, we'll make them more survive. But meanwhile, 250 species are going extinct every day, and 250,000 people are added to the planet every day. So
yeah,
we are cheating that. We're cheating the natural balance of things, and we're messing it up pretty badly.
right. And that's all based on the consumerist agricultural society that we live in, that's been fueled by fossil fuels. I mean, we've been able to expand enormously and overshoot the entire planet at this point. And that's gonna have dire consequences. It's a miracle that we have gotten this far without a disease or epidemic taking us out. As a civilizations are there.
We're just smart enough to avoid that. But avoiding those big disasters as far as diseases and viral outbreaks and all that has actually been more of a greater detriment to us in the long run, because now humans are overpopulated and we don't have enough environment, enough habitat to support as many humans as well as all the other species on the planet.
Yeah. And that's going to come naturally with how far you can exploit your environment. I mean, that's just like, it's like the whole pattern of, rises of empire and civilization. You're going to see the same type of patterns. We've been able to escape the diseases. Of course, diseases, anytime you crowd yourself into an area, you use livestock, you're going to attract a lot more types of parasites and bugs and ticks and bacteria with the poop alone. Anytime you have that concentrated with humans, with animals, when you're fallowing fields and just destroying it all down to the dirt, you're going to attract a lot more of the insects and bacteria to those areas. So you're increasing your chances of dying from a catastrophic like epidemic. And then it's miraculous that we've gotten this far, but it is because we've created things like the, antibiotics, the vaccines, and vaccines are different here and there because, just because you keep getting it doesn't mean that another disease or the smallpox or something isn't going to start cropping its ugly head again because it figured out a different way to get into our bodies. So I think that, of course, all people in civilizations want growth, and they want infinite growth on a finite planet once they start eating that grain and are able to dominate the area and continue to produce more, which is what everything is, what we want is to produce more. Or
More, and then we produce more people. Like the more food that's available, more people
yeah,
are bred. It's like more and more and more. The Green Revolution actually made it so we could have more people. If there's actually fewer resources, then people hold back and not have as many babies. Well, you'd think that. I mean, that's what I've been told, but I don't see that in like there's like Ethiopia and India and all that where they're just having more and more babies, even though they don't have the resources to support those babies. That's so frustrating to me. It's why? It's like why?
yeah. Well, it's definitely. I know that Daniel Quinn talked about that a little bit too. How all of the population always meets food supply, even if a lot of the population is starving to death. So if
Yeah,
you have enough food for 7 billion people, then you will have 7 billion people. Whether or not they've got the food or not, that's just kind of the way, which is interesting. I'd like to see more about that, but I remember him talking a lot about that. That you can definitely track that in the record. That if you have the food, you'll have those people, even if about a lot of them, billions of them are starving, they're still going to be there. So that's interesting, something that we don't have a full understanding, or I don't have a full understanding of. And I just, that we're in overshoot. It's the faster the rise, the harder the fall. The longer we people who understand let this continue, the worse off life is going to be afterwards. So, and that's a hard thing to think about because not very many people are resisting, not well, very few people in that I know in this country are resisting in a way that's going to make a difference. And the fact of this culture needs to be dismantled.
yeah,
Industrial civilization needs to go. And that's not a pretty picture for any of us to think about the reality of what that means, because it most likely means our death. But we're all a part of the tapestry of life. And right now, the further we continue to grow and the faster we continue to deplete all of the living communities, which they have called resources, the less likely it's going to be that bacteria is going to be able to clean this mess up. Or the healers, which like the mycelium bacteria, lichen moss, all of those ancient like life bringers, they're still here right now, and we're watching our climate rapidly change, and we don't know that they're going to be here from
yeah.
our
It's like for now they're here, and then
years.
right now we have uh, the military. Oh my gosh, the U.S. military is the hugest polluter on the whole entire planet. Sorry, I just have to bring that up for Lisa, even though she's leaving me. But it's huge. And like we have so many other problems other than that, but that's like huge. Just stopping that might slow things down a little. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what do we do? I mean,
The only way things are going to stop is if the system is dismantled. I
I
mean,
know.
we
I agree with you, and I'm
and
on the same page. But how do you do that?
the like cargoism, which they talk about in that book Overshoot by William Catton. The whole idea that people have this fantastic fantasy that we're going to be able to go ahead and come up with these solutions like solar and like biofuels and wind. And when you look at all these things, they're extraordinarily, we're just trying to do the same thing, which is to continue growth, to continue to have our civilization in these industrialized countries, and to not have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. And that's exactly what my interview with Derrick was going to be about before, we had that miscommunication thing going on. I was going to talk to him about his book, Bright Green Lies, and I wanted to go into detail about wind, solar, hydro, and all the issues that come from those green power sources, which aren't really that green at all. People really need to understand the consequences of these solutions. They're really all they want to do is continue the path they're on right now,
Right.
and continue doing the same things, live the same lifestyle, continue transporting food freaking across the oceans back and forth, and products and consumerism. They want to keep that going a little bit longer, and it has nothing to do with saving the planet. It has to do with they're running out of fossil fuels, and they want to keep going. It's a proven fact that they, even though green energy has increased, fossil fuel usage has not. I mean, so-called green energy, but it hasn't increased at all. Like, they're still using more fossil fuels than they have before because the population keeps growing. Ah,
Well, industry keeps going. I mean, that's just the way, you
yeah,
know.
growth in
Well,
infinite growth on a finite planet. Like, until
yeah,
you understand that concept, that we can't have infinite growth on a finite planet, people are still going to try and do that. I don't care how much green energy you use. If you're still using the fossil fuels and not cutting anything down, you're just increasing your ability to consume, then it's doing nobody any good whatsoever.
yes. I mean, it's that saying, like, until the last tree is cut and until the last fish is, killed, only then will you understand that you cannot eat money. And I
Right.
do think, I mean, I don't see, of course, this culture is not going to do a voluntary transformation. Um, and I'm very doubtful right now to the ability of people ever waking up to be able to do an effective resistance and to stop this culture from killing the planet. Because people won't even understand those basic fundamentals, that and not everything's about me and being able to have my car and being able to do what I'm used to doing and to live in the way that I am used to living. I mean, and I'm not being, I understand that, what we really need is basically a death wish in some ways, because or a death solution, because we don't really know how to live with the land anymore, and we've depleted the resources to such an extent that
Mhm.
we definitely don't have enough to feed most people. I mean, we're living on a ghost acreage. We're living on we've stolen the future of our children.
We're living on borrowed time
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
stolen from future generations, and we're falling off the cliff right now. And the sooner the brakes are put on this machine, the better. And we've all become metabolized into a machine. So, I mean, it's just, we're in a bad predicament. And, that's when you look at the history of what you can see in the archaeological record of civilizations collapsing, including the writing and stuff. I mean, they're going to go until they can't anymore. I mean, that's what they do, until a disease comes and takes them out, which is highly probable, until the climate gets to such an extent that we can't breathe the air. I
Mhm.
mean, one thing that really thinks about, I read The End of Ice with Darjamal, and that was such a good book, and I bawled the way a
Oh,
lot. It really made me, he's an incredible writer, and he really brought it home for me. And just seeing the other week that now our carbon levels at 415 parts per million, and that has never happened in the history of humanity,
I
much like
know.
mammals. um,
Hasn't happened since the Great Extinction. And
no, and that's
that's
to think about the timeline too. It's like, here we are, when you look back, as far as we can track time and carbon, and as far as humans have been here, we've been between, like, what, 200 and 300 is how much we fluctuate in carbon, over thousands, tens of thousands of years, from what we see with the ice records, like in the core of the ice. And then you see in the last 50 years, like, I remember when I was starting to get into activism, the 350.org was starting to get pretty big. And their point was, we can't let the carbon go above 350.
well, it's way past that now, baby.
Yeah. This is in 2000 and what, 3 or something, when they started, when we were at that level. And we've gone up in a matter of years.
I know it's happening very, very
I mean,
quickly.
yeah, by 65, I mean, 65, if you want to go back to when 350.org started, parts per million in a short amount of time, a decade. And the repercussions of that in turn, and then watching the ice, like, this year, they're saying it's, of course, as it was last year, like the warmest year ever in Alaska and on these polar ice, and the ice is starting to do that, tipping point, and we're past the tipping point.
Yeah,
And
we're headed towards
yeah,
the lowest ice in record.
yeah,
Not only in one place, but in Greenland, Antarctica, Arctica. It's like all of it. It's like all of that's coming together all at the same time.
Yeah,
That's scary.
it is
Very
scary.
scary.
And they did a report. The carbon thing's really interesting just to think about because I was reading a report. I watched Derek's interview with that gentleman, the scientist on carbon, and how he was talking about now plants they do really well with an additional carbon added to the atmosphere, but they start be lacking in essential.
Nutrients, because they don't do the photosynthesis process. They don't have to because it's so easily to, so they lack nutrition and all that because they're not working so hard,
They're
right?
fine for nutrition, but then the people who eat them, including
Yes.
ungulates, are the ones who are lacking. And he was saying that the studies have shown that the wildlife is a lot fatter. Because, of course, what we know is that when that happens, and we see that through our own grains, is that you end up getting a huge load of starch and sugar. And then your body can't process things properly. And you
You
get,
got the human population all over the place,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, but then there was also other reports that show that with the increase of carbon, one good one was done in 2013. I forget the title of it, but you can look it up by just saying carbon and the brain, like just in a Google search, carbon increase and brain function. If you put those in, but there was a really good study, and they showed that with the increase in carbon, of course, unfortunately, like they always do, they use this on animals, and then they test the brain patterns there. But they show that the whole cognitive abilities to rationally think, to problem solve, to have common sense, to be able to connect, actions with consequences, rapidly depletes with each, part per million of carbon that you turn up.
Yeah. Did you see that Jennifer Hines on the mind breaking video that she did?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
You
Yeah.
should see it. It's with Yan Wiley. They are working on this project that has it's like a database of environmental change, and they go and do these. There's a video. So far, it's just mind breaking. It's one on the mental effects of climate change, environmental change, and just like a synopsis. And it's not like political at all. It's just like all the stuff that's out there. This is the synopsis of it, and it's really cool. But yeah, it kind of comes to that conclusion. Mind breaking. It's about how it messes with your brain, all the stuff that's going on.
Well, then you think, I mean, it doesn't, people are getting wackier. I mean, the just logic and everything, and I don't know. I mean, people do. I find myself, that I am having a harder time placing things together, remembering things. Now I'm getting older, but I still feel like, especially when I go into town, I'm lucky living where I live because I live in a forest. So I imagine that I'm not getting nearly as much carbon as people who live in towns. But I mean, they're tracking carbon in school buildings at 3,000 parts per million. So the ability that it has, and then you look at everything like the tipping point and the, cascading system failure. You look at just our kids, you look at the carbon going up, and you look at the ice melting, and then you look at the food that we're getting, and then you add a little bit of a big insult to the injury, which is the social media that goes on top of that, which does the same things to your brain. Like us being on social media, of course, it's all designed, and I'm just as guilty of being on social media as anybody else, at like the gambling casinos, and you've got your little messages coming in. It's addicting, and it's extraordinarily hard when you work with social media like I do to not get addicted to the social media itself through scrolling, through the messages, through all that. And it's designed that, but all of that's impacting all of our ability, like to have common sense and to have these skills that we absolutely need in order to get over our narcissistic selves and understand the situation, the dire situation that life on this planet is in right now. And it's just interesting to see how it all, and it's just very depressing for, to see the cascading effects of this loss, that and what it's having on our brains, on our ability to organize and resist, which we're not doing, and on our ability to just be able to even, look at the horrific situation. I mean, I can't go, Colorado's terrible in terms of development, and just driving out of here and watching my home where I was born and raised be covered in concrete, and then understanding the real consequences of this drive to destroy soil that's taken millions of years to be who it is right now, and to understand the melting ice and the climate change and the carbon, it's just it becomes,
Heartbreaking.
it's very,
Heartbreaking.
it is. And it is. And then to see the beauty of life, like and to understand that the reason life is here and it continues to be here, although many are struggling and we're losing 200 species a day, is
And gaining 250,000 people a day.
yes. Well, that's
You
insane.
got to add those two things together.
Yeah. Well, and the consumption of the industrialized nations is the worst, the biggest strain on the planet.
Yeah.
And other countries who have more and more population trying to match that same lifestyle.
Yes.
I mean, the market being marketable. I mean, there's severe consequences for that. But I mean, the reason why we're here is because life communed with each other, up to the, I mean, including what we know about traditional communities. We listened, plants taught us, they were our teachers. They let us know, like, and it's interesting too, because I'm reading The Lost Language of Plants again, which is an excellent book. But it talks about too, like when a need comes up, like for example, for me, I'm an insomniac. I don't sleep very well. And every time the spring comes around, my whole house all around it bursts with pineapple weed, which is chamomile, and what we like a version of chamomile. And then I get different strains of plants that are like vervain and different things that are not around my mom's house, who lives right next to me. And I mean, and then also I have OSHA all around, and I harvest it just a little bit each spring. And when I harvest it, more and more shows up the next year. And I do it when I harvest it, I thank the earth. But I mean, like Stephen Booner was talking about, like plants are there for to help us, and they want to help us because we are their children, because the plants have been here for a long, they are our
for us. Yes.
And so, I mean, the fact that they even care about us at all anymore is probably questionable, but I mean, amazing that they're even still here. I think about the idea
that's going to go away. Those effects are going to go away as all the nutrients and all that, as more carbon comes into the atmosphere, their natural effects are going to diminish.
Yeah.
Do you think? Am I wrong about that? I mean, just seeing.
I mean, that's the plants can handle, like they said, carbon better than we can. But what the climate's going to do right now is going to be devastating. It's hard. In Colorado, we have tons of moisture this year compared to last year.
Utah, the second dry state, is so humid here. I am dying. It's like sweating every day. I'm so done with the humidity. I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
And we're raining every other freaking day.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I don't know how to deal with humidity.
Yeah, I don't like humidity. I'm in Colorado, so it's really dry. And so this has been a very wonderful summer from my perspective because it's moist. I don't have to worry about drying out and fires, but it's definitely different and it's cool.
We still got fires. With all the humidity, there was the last thunderstorm, 5 fires were sparked in the mountains behind me. 5.
Yeah, that won't help with the
huge 12-hour power outage and 5 fires.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see a lot, I mean, it's going to be interesting in the next few years. I mean, and it is right now, people are paying attention. And like I've said before, I mean, it's interesting how our human brain works in the sense that we can ignore everything as long as we've got food on our shelves, and as long as we've got a nice, shelter, and we've got our social media, we don't really have to think about the real world.
What happens when that goes away, though? Because
right. And that's when people are going to finally want to do something about it. And at that point, good luck. I mean, we're in trouble. We're in trouble right now. I mean, and a lot of people around the world more are suffering from this than are not. We're just at the top of empire in this country.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. I am. I mean, everybody that I know in my community is not, is pretty much benefiting from the exploitation of living communities and turning the living into the dead. And
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It's just okay. So we endured, a very long power outage, and I'm really concerned because my husband didn't handle it very well. I was excited. I was like, yay, no power. And things like this are going to happen more and more and more as time goes by. But my husband didn't handle it well. He, like, I was excited, and me and my daughter and my son-in-law, I'm not really married, but my son, yeah, my daughter's boyfriend, all were like, hey, let's go to the barn and play some card games with the lantern, the old kerosene lantern. And I was so excited. We were out there starting to play games, and then my husband starts at the damn generator and music.
Yeah.
Ruined everything for me. I'm like, no, this is supposed to be like old time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Messed up my whole world. Anyway, but some people can handle it better than others, I think. The whole not having power and stuff
Right.
like that.
Well, it would be a totally different situation if it didn't come back on, you know,
Definitely.
for all of us. I mean, I could sit here and say, and looking at it from a stepping back situation and say, I would welcome that day. And I'm
Mhm.
so glad that I could see the stars. But if it really, I mean, what would it be like to not have light pollution and to have the electricity gone? I mean, but it would be a short time before.
Before you realize, oh crap, I can't microwave my coffee to heat it up.
I wouldn't be that. I mean, I don't have a microwave, but I mean, no, I think it would be. I mean, let's not delude ourselves. How many of us would be able to feed ourselves without the system that we have all?
Yeah, if you can't go to the grocery store. That's why I'm trying to encourage people to grow their own food, or at least get involved in a co-op, or community gardens, or growing food in like an elderly person's yard.
Yeah,
There's I'm going to be talking to Grandma Elwood about that on Friday, just because I really want to let people know that you just because you live in an apartment does not mean you can't be a part of that, and you cannot do something to help you sustain yourself a little bit longer, because the food system is going to be cut off. Probably one of the first things after clean water, and then the food system's going to be. So you got to take care of yourself. So
yeah, and that'll be hard too because how are people going to water their plants? And then I mean, who is going to
I
be?
think about that too, and my horses. So I'm like, okay, what happens if everything goes down with my horses? I think we're just going to head up to the mountains with them. What else do you do? So they have
Yeah, I
grass.
don't worry. I try. I don't. I used to worry. Yeah, I used to worry a lot about that, but I don't anymore. I think that was a phase that I went through just because once once the grid goes down or the climate gets to such an extreme state that we aren't functioning anymore or disease comes through or whatever. I mean, that's the reason I eat my own food, which I do grow 90%, and I live off the land for 90% of my food. We get elk here, and I have goats, and I have goat milk, and I have chickens, and I do eggs. So I try to keep my diet pretty much, and I have gardens. So I try to keep my health and my diet localized. And I do that because, not because I think that that's going to save me or that I'm going to live longer, but because it takes away the dependence that I have on the system. And it allows me to think more clearly without all the chemicals too on my brain, which we can't avoid that in many ways. It's in the air, but as much as I can restrict it, and to also feel confident that I can that, and I don't know that I would be able to do that without the system. That's for sure. Because how am I going to feed everybody in the winter? But I would probably use my animals to feed myself if that came, but that would only last for a short amount of time.
I
So
couldn't do it. I couldn't. I couldn't.
if we're starving, I think people would change their attitude. But this is a whole different, like these are scenarios that I don't have any control over. What I do know is that I want to be able to be as to walk my walk and talk my talk, and to be as independent from the systems as possible. And in hopes of being able to, in doing that, to have a relationship with my food and to have a relationship with the land and to be able to hear the voices of the non-humans more clearly. And I do believe that once you understand where your food comes from and where and what it takes and who your neighbors are that are non-humans, that you can more clearly understand what is best for you to do given your talents. So I
Yeah.
do it a lot for those reasons. But yeah, I mean,
No, I agree with that. I mean, and there's some people that are really good at like fishing and hunting and know that where I could never ever do that ever. That's that's definitely not my strength. I was raised with hunters. I think we've had that discussion before, but I can't do it. I absolutely can't do it. Um, and I couldn't ever think of anybody hurting my horses. Like, but I think in a situation they would be kind of more of an asset than a liability, and I'd be like protecting them till my last breath.
as
So
long as there's grass for them to eat, you know.
yeah, well, I could take them up to the mountains, and I've seen horses survive in in the winter with digging through the snow to find grass and all that. If I took them to the right place, they'd probably be okay. Uh, it's just a hard thing to think about because I love my horses so
Right.
much, and I can't grow enough food here for them, so I'd have to think of something else to do.
I
We'll probably have to talk to our people soon, but
Yeah, I think that once we get in that situation, a lot of our views are going to change. So it's not like, to me, it's not even worth thinking too much about it because we have no idea what that's going to feel like when it happens. I think it will happen. I can't predict when, but I mean,
Yeah, well, there's Trent, and well, we joke about eating the rich because when people get desperate, they often go cannibalistic. So we talk about eating the rich because if you're going to be a cannibal, who who better than
yeah,
the rich, right? The ones that cause all this. I mean, it's not only them that cause it; it's everyone's consumerism and all that. I'm not
right.
discounting everybody else's blame for it, but the rich are the ones that keep it going and going and going and keep paying off those politicians to keep it going and going and going. Um,
And
yeah,
we're doing it too by not resisting.
yeah,
We're, I mean, and we're all duped in the sense that, I mean, even where our conversation's coming back to, where individual change is going to make real change, and it's not. I mean, there's no, there, it has to be a collective change, and it has
yeah,
to be a resistance. That things don't change without resistance, and we've never had to face something of this magnitude, and we don't see a historical. I mean, usually the resistance is about getting more of the pie, right? I mean, usually we want, but right now we're talking about life on this planet, and we're at the end of the line. And so it's much more dire that we resist, and it's much more dire that we understand who the enemy is, and it's much more dire to come together collectively and do something about it, and have an underground who's working to work on disabling the ability of the system to function through the oil and through the different, through the grid. All of those things are very fragile, and they're there, and they need to be dealt with. um
absolutely.
but the fact of the matter, just like what we're talking here, in terms of so many people not being able to get it, the carbon, and I mean, just everything is multiplying so fast. And I do see it as we have just stepped off the cliff, and we're falling, and that's kind of where we are. And it's a sad thing. I don't know. What I do is what I try to fight for whoever I can in whatever way that I can. And I try not to worry about my survival afterwards, because it's really kind of a moot point. I mean, when we get there, we get there. And the more able we are to live in community and to feed ourselves, the better off. All civilizations, what their goal is to kill all natives. That's why we see all of this in our history. We see the wildlife officials, they are killing all the natives so that we can grow more crops, so that we can grow more cows, so that we can grow more food to supply a never ending number of human beings. And
Yeah, right.
right. And in order to do that, the system has to eliminate the ability for anybody to feed themselves. So that's another reason why I like to feed myself, because I like to say, look, I can, I'm not going to, my rebel point too is like, I'm going to know how to do this, because it's important not only for me, but for my own, capabilities of how strongly I can resist. But definitely, I mean, that's important in that way.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we that's what frustrates me is there's so many people in denial about everything that's happening, about the overpopulation issue, about the climate issue, about everything that's happening. There's so much denial that I have absolutely positively no hope that anybody will do anything.
Right.
So, I mean, where do you go with that?
I think we do whatever we can. You're doing something right now. You're doing this show and you're getting people on it and you're talking about these issues and you're allowing people like me to have a voice on the,
The thing that makes me feel better is doing this. It's
yeah,
like going to calm my heart.
yes.
Is doing
And
this.
that's all. That I see. That's all. That's what we can do, and we can try to scream at the top of our lungs and try to get people. But people aren't going to do anything until they're in that position until they want to too. But I do the thing that if we want life to have a chance, we have to get over our myopic views of self, right, and our narcissism. We have to stop looking in tunnel vision, and we have to understand what really needs to be done, which we know what's killing the planet. We know that it's fossil fuels is the main trigger.
Fossil fuels,
Uh,
the war. The war is
if
huge
you
because
buy fossil fuels, you wouldn't have those types of wars without the fossil fuel. You would have war, but not like
it's
that.
all connected. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
the population and agriculture are the base roots of that. I mean, that's the agriculture is going to increase
Yeah.
population.
Monoculture and
Hmm.
mass producing food, um, factory farming, all of that is allowing people at the expense of the environment to increase populations. But in the end, it's going to kill everything.
It is. Yeah,
Everything. This is
it
going
is.
to kill everything.
Yeah, I mean, like before, at least you can look at the record of civilizations rising and falling in the last 10,000 years. That's the first time you start seeing it. And you see that with the ability to store grains and with grain. Like I just read Against the Grain by Scott, not by Richard Manning's Against the Grain is great, but this other one was by Scott. I forget his last name now. It's a new one that just came out last year. And he talks about how, civilization, hunters and gatherers grew peas and they would do roots and lentils and stuff. And that never ended up in state formation. So, in what we're seeing like is empire or state where they have this strict military and hierarchy and slavery and all this stuff and this massive insanity of growing grains. And the grains have done that to us. It makes you wonder too, like we're so addicted to these things. Like
Yeah.
me, when I start eating grains, and I have been doing that a lot because I got stressed last week, and why, that's what we do. But
Comfort food.
it's just like sugar. I mean, sure. So you're eating grains, doing the same thing to your body. You want bread. Oh, then you're going to want more bread. Then you're going to want more sugar. Then you're going to want cereal. Then you want, and this stuff is destroying our bones. I mean, and so, and it's destroying the planet, and it's growing our population, and it's feeding thousands of cows that are mistreated in horrible ways, and none of this is the way life is supposed to be. And it's just that I don't really I don't really have anything more to say except we're in quite a pickle right now.
Yeah, we are in quite a pickle. Do you want to go through some of the comments so we can?
Sure.
I mean, we've been
I
on
haven't.
over almost an hour, so
Okay,
we should go through some of the comments and bring our
sure.
people into this because, dang, um, I love our people. We have the best community here. You should know. You've heard them. So Miss Gal is here. Say hello.
Hi.
Um, she wants to know what the stream is about. It's about craziness. It's I don't know. How do you? It's just a talking. We're just talking about people and everything that's wrong with the freaking world. I don't know how to explain it. You have to go back and watch the whole thing. You'll just sorry, sorry, Miss Gal. I can't explain it.
It's
What,
kind of about how this culture is killing the planet, and
yes, that's a good.
serious
That's
resistance movement in order to stop it. And we have to stop deluding ourselves into thinking that individual behaviors like changing our light bulbs or like eating a certain way or whatever is going, or using solar panels or using wind is going to change anything at any level at all, because it's not.
yeah,
Stop.
yeah. And I can't wait to talk to Derrick about that. And that's going to happen. We're going to reschedule again, yet again. Ah, ah. But yeah, we just had a little miscommunication again. Anyway, um, Zoc says things will change after the first billion die. Yeah, well, let's hope. I don't know. Hopefully, none of us are one of those first billion, but because these are the good people, the smart people, right? It's like those are the people you want to survive. Please survive.
Nature's not going to discriminate. I mean, I seriously am at the point now where I would, and I'll say this from stepping back, but I really hope a disease comes, and I really hope it takes. Like, I just wish there was a disease that was
See,
exclusive.
that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about was the mandatory vaccinations. We never even got into that. I mean, what's your opinion on countries making vaccinations mandatory?
Well,
I mean,
that's to me that's stupid. I mean, it's all part of it's that I think that's where we were trying to go at the beginning, and I was just saying
yeah.
it's part of this culture of violation. So, I
Mhm.
mean, like vaccinations on a personal level, do I want to be vaccinated if measles epidemic or any epidemic comes by that the vaccination would save me from? Yes, yes, I would. Do
Yeah,
I?
but making them mandatory.
No, I think that to me, I'm totally against mandatory vaccinations, but it's looking at the whole picture too. It's like there's too many of us.
Hmm.
The Earth does try to keep throwing stuff to knock down the. That's how it
But we're
works,
cheating that. That's what. Yeah, that's where we're all getting
right?
trying to get
But I mean,
to.
we cheated for so long, and the more we do, the whole thing is the more we keep doing those measures, um, the harder the fall is going to be. It's just like it's continually the bacteria is smarter than we are.
Mhm.
By far. We're their children. They've been here way longer. Viruses are smarter than we are. And people might think, well, they haven't gotten us yet. We haven't been here for very long at all. They're figuring out. We're already seeing super viruses. We're already seeing these viruses that are able to outdo any of those mandatory vaccinations.
Mhm.
And the whole mandatory, I mean, a lot of it doesn't even make sense. If measles is going to come back in, and if vaccinations definitely were that did stop that, then the people who are vaccinated wouldn't get the measles. But
Right.
even with the flu, the people who were dying from the flu, and they don't talk about that, were always had the flu shot. So most of the times had the flu shot, and so
The few times I've got the flu, I have the flu shot. So I don't understand.
yeah, yeah.
And then there's the whole thing with horses and the gosh, there's a thing, what West Nile, with horses getting West Nile. Okay, horses get West Nile way fewer times than humans get West Nile. The few horses I know that had West Nile, that got West Nile, were vaccinated for West Nile and died from West Nile. Only the vaccinated ones. I've never seen a horse die from West Nile that wasn't vaccinated for West Nile.
Yeah,
So I think as a pharmaceutical push, vaccinations I'm really skeptical of. I just am. I
yeah.
don't get it. And I've had a couple nephews that ended up getting seizures after getting the pertussis vaccination. So I'm a little skeptical. I'm sorry. And I think people have a right to be skeptical. You shouldn't be pushed into to doing these things if you're afraid of them. That you shouldn't have to do them.
No,
I
I'm totally with you on that one. I mean, I don't really anybody telling, and then the whole fact that they're like pushing 35 different vaccinations on children before they're the age of what, 4? I mean, it's like
Yes.
a lot. It's
And
like,
all the vaccinations have glyphosate in them because of the gelatin. The gelatin comes from hooves of cows that have been fed corn with glyphosate. Every time it goes down the food chain, the glyphosate percentage increases and increases. So that gelatin that they raise the vaccines in is hugely populated with glyphosate. And glyphosate, as you know, causes cancer. And there's all kinds of lawsuits going on. I shouldn't talk about that. I'm not supposed to talk about that. Damn it. There you go again. Crap.
I know. Well, the problem
Talk
is
about that.
problem that they're showing, and they do have a lot of evidence for, and the lawsuits and everything, are the adjuvants that you're talking about, which is the agents that they put in the vaccinations to preserve them so that they're active when they inject people. So that's when you see aluminum is what they use in mercury. They use aluminum now more, mercury. So all these things, people that are saying, I mean, anytime you inject these types of things into the bloodstream, there, and just like with all medications, there are definitely can be serious side effects for it. I mean,
Yeah,
and
so it
people,
should never be forced.
vaccines are it's such a strange issue to me because lots of people that I respect and admire are totally pro vaccination. And it's just like the whole idea of thinking like we all understand that the humans have totally exceeded and we keep pushing boundaries. So we keep violating boundaries that nature tries to bring us back in with. And we've gotten away with it for so far, which is a very short period of time, probably because fossil fuel is such a huge boom and it's very forceful. But that's going to come right back on us. So
Yeah.
do I personally, and I don't really care what other people think, but I certainly wouldn't force anybody to give me or my son mandatory vaccines, and he doesn't get vaccines, and I'm not going to have him. And that's my personal choice. And I think, and
Yeah.
what other people want to do, if you believe so much in vaccine, then I don't understand the whole mandatory issue, because if you're vaccinated, then you're not going to get the measles, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that maybe there's more
I
science
don't think
behind
it
that.
works that way. I don't know.
But I
I
mean,
mean,
the
I've
whole thing
seen
is
people
too,
get the
like,
measles with the vaccine or
yeah.
chicken pox. Why the hell are they vaccinating for chicken pox?
Yeah, I mean and then they've done research that shows that ever since they started doing that, the shingles has risen in the older population, and it's because we really need to be consistently exposed to chickenpox virus, because once you get it once, you're pretty
That's
much immune.
natural. It's
But you're
natural.
injecting it, it's doing different things, and your body's not fighting it off like it would. But I mean, most of these diseases too we're seeing are diseases of civilization. People get diseases when you start crowding into certain areas, and you start crowding your feces, and you start crowding your breath and your body fluids and all that stuff into one area. You're increasing the vectors for disease.
Mhm.
So I mean, and eventually those vectors, no matter how many things you try to shoot yourself up with, which I don't like, they're gonna figure out a way, and
Uh,
it's gonna be scary.
yeah, but yeah. Anyway, I really wanted to talk to you about that one because it's so frustrating, and I seem like I'm on the outskirts of that whole issue, and and major media is totally against my opinion on that. I remember exposing my kids when they were babies to chicken pox just to make sure they got them while they were young because it's so much easier for them
Yeah,
to deal with it.
parties, the chickenpox parties, where because you'd want your kids to be exposed to it, so you'd have
Yeah.
everybody come together when somebody got chickenpox, and you'd want them to get chickenpox.
Mhm.
Earlier the better. And you are
Yeah.
seeing cases of older people getting to chickenpox now, when it does finally get them, and that's not good. We all know that it's
Oh,
hard. It's much harder you get a lot sicker the older
yeah.
you.
I think it's just better just to get it over with and develop the immunity. That's what our immune system is for, developing immunities.
Yeah.
They just handle it so much better when they were kids than when you're an adult. I don't. That's frustrating. It's just frustrating. I don't know how else to put it. Oh my gosh. Uh, but we should read some of the comments. I wish you could see them. Oswald Spengler, thank you for coming. And
Maybe I.
Oswald asked if you're from Colorado,
Oh,
and of course you are. Yes, she's in Colorado. What part of Colorado are you in exactly?
me?
Yeah.
Oh, in Sedalia, Douglas County.
Oh, nice. I have a friend in Colorado, but he's way down south. Um, Now I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's down there by Mesa Verde, around there. I don't know. Pablo. Is it Pablo? Pablo, Colorado? I
Pueblo,
think.
Pueblo, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's where our friend is. I don't know. Um, let's see. But she's been on Derrick Jensen's show too. Yes.
Hold on.
Yeah. Yes, she has been on Derrick. That's where I found her. She's awesome, right? I love her. Um, the idea of self is an illusion. Yeah, kind of, I guess. Western society needs to undergo a massive ego flush. Absolutely, Scott. Gazar, remove the oil and you revert back to a population before oil. I would love to see that. I really would. Chris Foster.
I can
Thank you
see.
Chris. Oh my gosh. I get allergies this time of year.
Oh
Um,
no.
Chris Foster is clear across the pond. He's from York. I think it's Yorkshire. Yorkshire. I think Yorkshire. I don't know. I'm probably saying that wrong, huh, Chris? Um, but anyway, he's across the pond. Um, Because it's not even the fuel itself, really. The U.S. has a huge surplus. It's about maintaining the petrodollar. Yeah, that's pretty true. They're trying to keep it. I mean, they know there's not an infinite supply, but they want to make sure that they have control of whatever supply there is in the future, don't you think? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the
yeah.
U.S. is all about power and control of the rest of the fucking world, which pisses me off really bad. But
I
that's
mean,
our
most
country.
of all the industrial. I mean, we're all industrialized nations now. So
Uh, Absolutely.
yeah,
Uh, Trev, good to see you, Trev. Bud, always nice to have you here. When things get bad, the nukes will be fired, probably.
yeah. We're
Uh,
we're in a we're in an interesting predicament.
yeah, we are, and I don't
Our
think there's any way out of it. So enjoy life while you have it. Enjoy every single minute while you can. That's what I say. That's all you got.
yeah.
Let's see. Trevi Moose Gal is back. I don't know where she went, but she's back. Can anyone knit? I can. Well, I wish I could. I used to be able to knit when I was younger. I don't remember how to knit anymore. I don't sew except for leather work. Um, Vegans out there, don't get mad at me. I do leather work. I'm sorry, but I love it. I can't help it. Um, uh, Monopoly. Hey, Pat, the Batman fan. How you doing? He came on last night like a big surprise. Bam! Pat, the Batman fan. He's sorry if you don't know who he is. He's been in all the chats, and I really like to get people in the chats on my show, and he's a big one, and he showed up last night. It was really fun. Um, Gazar, I'm across the pond, North Yorkshire. Oh, you are really, Gazar? That's cool. Gazar's been off for a while because his computer was down. Now he got a new used computer, and so he's back.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, okay, guys, do you have anything to say to Deanna? Because I know you guys were talking a lot. I don't know if you're talking amongst yourself or whatever, but we're gonna call it close pretty quick. So, um, if you have anything you want to ask Deanna, um,
Yeah, and I can see the chat now. I'm looking through 'em.
oh, can you?
Yeah,
Pat,
there's a lot.
you're very welcome. Anytime you want to come on Monday Madness, we're going to have a Women's Wednesday, and you'd be a great one for doing that. It would be Dames of Doom Women's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Pat says, great discussion. Deanna, some great points. Yeah, you have fantastic points. Moose Gal, I highly recommend you all watch Let the Madness Begin at 6 p.m. I love those guys. Sometimes they get a little too establishment for me, but they're fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Pat the Batman fan. He's very interesting. He's fun. I love that he helps Graham Elwood. I'm going to be on Graham's show Friday. He probably won't be posted till Saturday. Always takes him like a day. Men's Monday, yeah, Men's Monday, Women's Wednesday. That's what I'm going to try and do. Not this week though. Not tomorrow. Next week because it's just too much. I can only do some. I'm probably going to work way late tomorrow to catch up from being home early today, guys. So, yeah, Men's Monday, Women's Wednesday. Are you able to come on Wednesday, Deanna?
I might be.
That would be so much fun.
In,
Um, I get try to get Sandy on. Maggie May. If you haven't seen her channel, watch Maggie May's channel. She does some really fun stuff. She just did a Derrick doll, and she's working on a Derrick video.
oh, good.
So, complete with Gray Kitty.
Nice.
I'm so excited. She does these really cool. She does things with little dolls and stuff, little skits. It's
Cool.
hard to explain. You just have to watch. It's Maggie May, like the song, just like the song Maggie May, but she's got like a little dog emblem as her thing, a little black, looks like a either a pit bull or a boxer or something. I don't know. Anyway, you gotta see her stuff. She's amazing.
Good.
Um, yeah, let the madness begin. I really like Let the Madness Begin. It's just Sometimes they get establishment me. When they were pushing Hillary, they pissed me off. I was watching them all full out until they were pushing Hillary, and then like I'm done. And everyone who was pushing Hillary, I was like, I'm done. Nope, can't watch you anymore. So I'm sure they'll be fine until Biden gets the nomination, and then I'll be out again.
Yeah.
See ya. I can't do it. Can't. Just can't do it. Let's see. Can you see? Is there any comments you want to read?
Here's what Pat asked what my background is. So
Okay.
I started an organization called Prairie Protection Colorado in Colorado after working on saving prairie dogs. I lived in Alaska for 13 years. I graduated from UAF there in anthropology and then English. Then I started teaching. And right now I just work on advocating a lot for the, prairie dogs, bobcats, different wildlife in my area. And I'm also on the board of Deep Green Resistance, trying to get people a little bit
That's
more interested and I've been part of Deep Green Resistance for quite some time. But
that's cool. How do you get a part of? How do you get to be a part of Deep Green Resistance? Because I really like that organization.
yeah, we'll just go on see their website, deepgreenresistance.org, and it talks about how you can become a member there. You can also watch us on Facebook and get a hold of us on Facebook. Reach out to us through email, and we do have a process of becoming a guardian in our community, and then cadre when you get up the line a little bit more. So we have a lot of good opportunities to get involved and to start, you know, and basic Deep Green Resistance is different from a lot of other organizations just in the fact that we advocate for the dismantling of civilization, which other organizations just don't do that. They don't recognize the root of the problem, and they're a lot more about how do we continue on with civilization, and in a nicer, more gentler form of capitalism. I mean, or consumerism, whatever you want to call it. And the whole world seems to be involved in consumerism, whether they're calling themselves communists, socialists, or capitalists. But
Mhm.
so yeah, kind of just getting to the root.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's. Sorry, I'm trying to answer while I'm talking. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry. No, I'm gonna have to definitely check into that. Deanna, I can tell you're a practice speaker. You get your points across clearly. Well done. She's amazing. This is the third time I've had her on, and I, I always want her on. Like, ah,
Thank you.
she's amazing.
That's very nice to
Well,
hear. I appreciate that feedback a lot.
well, you are amazing, and I do appreciate your point of view and everything. So anytime I'm on, you're more than welcome to jump on.
Okay.
Um, I'm gonna try to do the Wednesday women's, but there's one Moose Gal can't make it on Wednesday because she works Wednesday and she wants to be on. So she may have to jump on a different day, but that's just fine too. Um, ah, okay, Deanna, I can tell you are okay. That's already there. What's Ace? Kazar. I'm so happy you're back, Kazar. It's so cool to see you back. He was off for a while. We have the best community here. We just really do. Have you been in on our Monday chat things? Have you seen any of them?
I haven't yet.
Well, you should watch on Mondays. There's a lot of people that come on, and I can like, okay, I'm gone for a minute and just let everybody talk while I go away.
Yeah, that's
I can take a break.
good.
Yeah, they just keep talking. It's cool. But Women's Day is. I just had the first one. We're going to do it again for sure, where we just have the women on, and it will be so much fun. Okay,
Good.
Moose Gal says we can figure it out another day. Okay, cool. We will for sure, Moose Gal. We love to meet the people in our community, and that's kind of my thing right now. I'm just getting to know everyone in the community. So we have already been on for 15 minutes, over an hour. So an hour and 15 minutes. Well, not quite. We're a little late. So we're
Uh-huh.
good though. Thank you so much, Deanna, for coming on last minute to replace Derrick. But I couldn't think of anyone better to to step in his stead. So thank you so very much, and I loved continuing our conversation.
Thank
That
you.
was awesome.
Good. Okay.
All right, guys, we're gonna head out. Why is why did Bio give me a frowny face and an oh? I don't understand. How much? Oh, okay, never mind. Because he missed. Sorry, sorry. I told you yesterday what time I was gonna be on, and you still are late. I can't help it. I don't know what else to do. Okay, all right, guys. I love you all. You guys have a very good evening, and we will talk to you soon. Watch for me on Graham Elwood's channel. It'll probably be posted Saturday, but I will be interviewing with him on Friday. So I will talk to you guys soon. Don't forget Monday Madness next week. Have a good one. Bye, guys.